First of all, thank you very much for the invitation, Gonzalo and Pierre. For me, it's a pleasure to give a talk to your students, and I hope that the talk is interesting for you. I am afraid that at some point it may be a little bit redundant. Probably you have heard the same things over and over. I hope you can find something new and fresh in my talk. I'm going to share my screen. Let me see. Let me know. Let me. No. No, I see no. Let me know. Do you see the whole screen? Yeah. It's okay, right. Well, Gonzalo introduced myself, but I do not work alone. I work in a research group that stems from an ERC starting grant project led by Samer Hassan. And the project was on decentralized organizations in the blockchain, the so-called DAOs, and how they can serve to empower well, grassroots communities and decentralized initiatives. And well, let me say that that Samer was a pioneer in you know in researching DAOs and promoting them. It was in 2018, not 17, I would say. So now we are all of us very familiar with the term, but at that point, the term was not familiar at all. So, and then we also asked for a couple of research projects that both of us led on DAOs, as Gonzalo said. And we are interested in how DAOs serve people to collaborate and to work in in a cooperative manner. Okay. And at least that was what DAOs were intended for. Now maybe they are a little bit different, or maybe they are more familiar to other kind of organizations. But at the beginning, they had that idealistic idea in mind. Okay. Well, a DAO definition, it could be that it's a blockchain-based system deployed on a public blockchain. And the idea is that the software that runs usually in Ethereum, that is the biggest public blockchain, runs by itself and serves the community to coordinate and self-govern using these smart contracts deployed in the blockchain, right? And they are organizations because they are they mediate the interactions of a group of people, which are supposed to collaborate in a more or less horizontal way, or without the usual hierarchies and without the usual collaboration mediated by money, by contracts in a company where we usually work, right? The idea is that all the members share, or most of the members share the power of the company. They usually have some tokens, and the tokens enable them to govern and to participate in the DAO activities. So the idea is similar to the corporation shares, but in a decentralized manner, and also in a could be also in an open manner. They are supposed to be autonomous in the sense that they have in their smart contracts how the decisions are taken and what are the criteria for a decision to be made or approved. And in this sense, they are autonomous. And in principle, some decisions can also be autonomously taken. Okay, and in this way are different to other communities that are hosted in a central server, because in that cases the owner of the server always can owns the data, owns the community itself, and the community is like in a walled garden, right? And they are always dependent on these people that runs the server and the company that usually hosts the program or the portal where they are working in. For example, I'm thinking about communities using YouTube, for example, or even wikis that are also hosted in a private server and these kind of things. DAOs are decentralized, and the idea is you are not running in a server, you are running on a decentralized infrastructure that is a blockchain, and is decentralized as well in terms of decision making, because supposedly there is no one CEO that takes the decision, but the community propose how the organization is going to evolve, what are they going to do, and so. Okay, this is in theory, right? But in the practice, what this is a theoretical definition that was published in 2021. But in practice, now what we call a DAO is mainly composed by a group of members that usually have some tokens that usually have a monetary value, or that are maybe they have one token for membership, one other token for crypto funds, and they manage those crypto funds and the decisions of the community, proposing, making proposals, putting forward proposals, and voting on them. And usually the voting power of each member depends on the amount of tokens that they own. And this is what in practice, de facto, what is a DAO right now, or most of what comes to our minds when when somebody mentions the term DAO. Okay, I also want to emphasize that DAOs are deeply affected by being a blockchain system. This may be obvious, but if you see the previous definition, if the previous definition was not, didn't materialize on the blockchain, but in any other way, probably DAOs would be very different. So it's like as in communication, the mean is a message, no? Here is more or less the same. The infrastructure is also the community, right? And what I say so, because blockchain are good for few things, and a blockchain system can do very well a couple of things, but is not good for doing some other things. And in the end, what is blockchain is good for recording some small transactions and good for managing funds in a centralized manner. And this is exactly what we are doing in a DAO. We are recording the votes of the people, and we are managing the funds that are crypto funds of the people. And other interactions are out of the blockchain. They are not. They do not take place in the blockchain. But a community is much more than just a book to account for the funds or to manage the funds, and a book to account for the results of the decisions, right? There are many other things, many other processes, like communication or the activity of the DAO itself, whatever they are coordinating. Maybe they are as DAOs are usually linked to some IT project, the source code that they are developing, the things that they are doing, they are out of the blockchain. Okay, but what is a DAO is very and what DAOs are right now is deeply affected by the fact that they are blockchain system. Also, the users of DAOs are blockchain advocates, are either crypto economists or computer scientists. Okay, so in this sense, and we cannot fool ourselves. DAOs are a need, and blockchain. Sorry, a blockchain is a need. It's not popular. Maybe in our circles, everybody knows what is a DAO. But if you go out in the street and you ask, randomly some few people, that you will you will notice that nobody knows what is a DAO out there. Okay, so and of course this is this is what it is. Okay, this is what it is. Also, DAOs are also affected by the problems that blockchain has in terms of computational costs of computing. Computing costs you money, and also because the technology, now is mature, but a few years ago it was not so mature. So you can experience some problems and find that even for voting, it will cost you a lot of money. Okay, and this is not what we are used to, right? We are used to a free or freemium use of systems, right? Of applications. Okay. Then I will. Why DAOs are popular? Well, they are popular because there have been few platforms, software platforms, that have made easy to deploy a DAO and interact through a DAO. They offer the service of make easy for us to have a DAO, to operate and interact through a DAO. Okay, and these platforms. Let me show you this. Maybe you are familiar with these platforms, but some of them are older, like Aragon and DAO Stack. They belong to the first wave. DAO House also belongs to the first wave, and others like Realms or Snapshot, that is not exactly DAO platform, or Tally, they are more recent, right? These were around before 2020, and this came, on 20 and 2020 and after that. So we were interested in looking at what we call the DAO sphere and analyze, because there was a trending phenomenon. A lot of people were using DAOs. They were investing money in DAOs. Aragon was a very successful startup at the time it was launched, and a lot of people are using DAOs to manage an incredible high amount of money in crypto coins. So we were interested in having like a panoramic view, and because it was very easy to retrieve all the data from the blockchain. As I said, blockchain is a decentralized database that records the transactions, so it's easy to retrieve all this data and have a look at it. And this is what we did. We create a census to characterize how was the participation and how were the DAOs, what we call like a DAO census. Okay. So we analyze these 6 main platforms that totalize like over 10,000 deployments and 5 million voters and 21 million votes. we made this, probably it's not your topic of interest, but the dataset is freely available in this UA repository, Zenodo. And I'm going to show you some figures to think about what the DAO sphere looks like. What we see that in terms of size, this is the number of voters that we have in a DAO, that if we look in total, we see that that the typical DAO is a small DAO. Probably a DAO made just for a test or for casual use or something like that. This is typical when you look at the number of users in a software system or in other open collaboration projects like wikis or like GitHub repositories. Is quite frequent to find, wikis that were created and shortly abandoned, or software repositories that only have one contributor or two or three, and that they didn't, have like the, they were not big enough. Okay, but as it happens also in these projects, you can find like exceptions where you find a number of users that is large. Okay. Of course, being a software system, and we cannot be sure that every voter is just one person, and that the accounts to vote were not created algorithmically, and so there is no one person behind each of the accounts. But this is also a problem when you study these kind of systems. We are only this is a proxy of the number of users, but of course the number of persons, the people, could be much less. Okay. As I said, this phenomenon is also similar to what happens in wikis and in open source communities, where you can find successful projects sustained by huge communities. And in this case, it's possible to find large DAOs with a large number of voters. But if we look at the voting activity, again, we see, and we look at it in terms, using as a reference the size of the DAO, we see that and I think it's better to look at the median. I guess that you are familiar with the median and the mean. The mean is sensitive to outliers, and the median is not. So since there is outlying behavior in the distributions, it's better to look at the median. It's 50% of the DAOs have less than 7 proposals. DAOs between 100 people and 1,000 people. So it means that the activity was limited. But again, as I said, most of the DAOs probably didn't last long. Okay, they were used just for test or for a casual use, or maybe just for a short project. Okay, not like a proper organization. Okay, and the participation again is low. If you look at it, it decreases as the DAO size increases. This makes sense because it's very difficult to have a truly committed community if you are a huge organization. It's typical to have more like casual members that are not, devoted to the project in a constant manner. They come and go, or they are devoted in a short period of time, then they trust on what the rest of the community votes. Okay, they trust on what the community vote, but they don't follow or they don't vote so frequently. Okay, and similarly with the voter turnout, it decreases. So in summary, we can say that as we said that, okay, some DAOs exhibit high activity levels, but most of them have like a moderate participation. Again, This is typical when you think of a peer production. In horizontal organizations, it's typical to have like the 1-9-90, maybe you have heard about it. 1% of the people are strongly committed to the project. 9% of the people are casual members that collaborate occasionally. And 90% of the people are called in sometimes lurkers, like but I don't like this term because it has a negative meaning. And I think that people that uses the project and enjoys the project, or even if they do not collaborate a long time, they are important for the project. Okay, because the project is not probably, it's like in Wikipedia, probably few of you, if any, have edited in the Wikipedia, but I'm pretty sure that you use it. Okay, so users are very important for Wikipedia. Wikipedia is important because it's a resource that is used and popular, even if only very, very few people really collaborate into them, right? So it's, in this case, it's similar. It will be similar. Again, also, we have to think that participation demands a cost. This is not always clear, but when you participate in a project, it's because you have the time to do it. In some cases, you need the money. If you are in some DAOs, you need to have like shares, and the shares have mean money, or if they mean money, or if they mean work on the project, you still need the knowledge to work and the time to work. So participation costs, and also people have, a limited amount of resources to devote in a project. So some people is happy to be part of the project even if they don't collaborate into them, or they support the project even if they don't collaborate into them, and only a few members really collaborate into them. I don't know if you have this previous experience, but probably you have organized a party with your friends, and it happens usually the same, at least in Spain. Few people really collaborate in putting, in making the party happen, even if the party makes no sense if nobody comes, if just few people comes, right? The party makes sense if lots of people come to the party, right? Well, here is the same. Here is the same. And of course, it has some problems. These kinds of communities have some problems because power is concentrated. They evolve into kind of, a dictatorship, or maybe these guys that are the core members, the ones that are, working a lot, maybe they can have a problem and then and leave the project because a personal issue or some problems in the community, and then the community and the whole project suffers from that. So the project itself is very frail because of that dependence on the core members. Also, they can have experienced burnout. This is also typical, as it happens in the parties. Okay, I'm fed up of organizing the parties all the time. You always come to my house, and then I have to clean it, and so on and so on. So, okay, let's rotate a little bit. These kind of things also happen in this kind of organizations. And in terms of lifespan, as you probably have anticipated, most of them really last just a few weeks, okay? But some of them, last for long. In this case, is the same as in open source and wikis, but also since in the case of DAOs, they also have like the high Paris rate of startups, because the DAOs are similar to startups in some cases, and they host some startup project, and both things, peer communities or horizontal communities and startups have a high abandon rate. So high abandonment rate. So the same happen for DAOs. Okay. And if we look at the power distribution, how the voting power is distributed in a DAO, we find that they are, and if we call a whale a person who owns a lot of voting power, that is able to bend the, to change the outcome of a vote, then we find that that power is concentrated. If we use the Gini coefficient, I'm not sure if you are familiar with the Gini coefficient, but it's a measure of inequality, typical in economics. The higher, the more unequal. We find very high, and it's belong 0 and 1, right? So we find very high values. This is this DAO here that has 0 Gini. It's just one DAO and has and it was an algorithmic experiment, right? But you find that the Gini increases as the size of the DAO increases. It means that inequality is higher in bigger DAOs, in larger DAOs. It means it also it makes sense because you cannot have like a lot of people voting depending on your voting system. If you need like a quorum to pass a vote to pass the vote, if you need that quorum, it's very difficult to have a quorum if you do not have voting power concentrated. Okay, so probably this inequality is an expression of growing or even evolving, right? It's easier to have more horizontal, community or organization if your size is not very, very large. And this is what we saw looking at the DAO census. Still, we find DAOs that are high. This is in 100 members. We see DAOs with a low Gini, low inequality, even with 0 Gini. Maybe some of them are experiments, academic experiments or tests or whatever. But some of them we have checked and have found that some communities are large and are quite horizontal, the voting power is distributed. So this is nice because it means that the same tool can be used in different ways, right? Even if the tendency is to power concentration, for a DAO to turn into an oligarchy. In principle, okay, this is open, this is decentralized, but in the end, it can be said that it ends up being like a regular company, right? Where a few shareholders control the whole company. Okay, so this is the part that is most interesting for us. And then a couple of questions I mean, there are many things to understand on DAOs. I think that and many lessons that can be drawn from DAOs to run other kind of collectives or other democratic initiatives, because it's very interesting. What is very interesting on DAOs is that it's not exactly never is exactly as a common, private company, because usually the community are the ones that propose what is going to be done, and it's not in an organized way. They don't have like a plan. The plan emerges, and this is very interesting. This is called open strategizing. It's studied in computer science. They study this kind of phenomenon. We are analyzing one DAO, how they strategize in a qualitative way, not in this quantitative way. and it's kind of interesting. And they, of course, they have whales, but the whales are not the ones that propose. The whales, of course, they can always impose their criteria, but it doesn't happen like that, or at least data say that it doesn't happen like that frequently. So it's very interesting to look at also, we had like this panoramic view, but also to focus in, mixing the qualitative and the quantitative approach, and the panoramic and the approach, and the, using the microscope and looking into a few communities to understand how they work, right? And in my point, from my point of view, is, those are a very interesting setting, because there are a lot of people using them, and they do it, to create projects, and the projects last. And as I said, many lessons can be drawn from other systems, from what the area that is called computational social science, like how we organize, mediated by computers, by the internet, by the blockchain, and how these lessons can be, for running any other organization, even for running a town hall, or even a region in your country, as it happens in Switzerland. You have like you are a very democratic country, where you run things quite horizontally. So for sure, lessons can be drawn from DAOs, because this participatory, not only voting, but on all the issues, but also in proposing, is very interesting. So, well, I copied this because this sentence, this famous quote that says, "Wikipedia only works in practice. In theory, is a total disaster." This is also interesting about DAOs. You can be skeptical about them, but many people are managing projects with users, with that manage a lot of funds, and in a decentralized way. So in some way they are working, and it's an interesting phenomenon. And well, my call here is for a multidisciplinary approach. I think that I am a computer scientist. I know that you are not. So I think that is very interesting that not only DAOs break the niche of the computer scientists and crypto economists, but also that people from different areas are interested in analyzing them, in playing with them, in organizing through them. So, well, this is my presentation. I would be very happy to hear your thoughts about, and if you have any questions, you're welcome.